adrenaline junkies, F1 lovers, and Brad Pitt admirers. We need to talk about F1, the movie. So before we get into it, kick that intro.
Welcome to the Lights, Camera, Rant Podcast.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Lights Camera Rant. As always, I am your wonderful host, Mr. Rant, and a big shout out to Universal for the invite to go to the F1 premiere here in Melbourne, which was so fantastic. Please go check it out on Instagram because that was such a good night. Suit up and look inspected for a movie that honestly took me by surprise. Now, it doesn't matter if you're not a big car person. It doesn't matter if you're not really into F1s or anything like that. This is just a movie that needs to be on your hit list for 2025. Going into this movie, I saw the poster, but I didn't watch the trailer because I've been coming a little bit more of less watching trailers at the moment because unless it's Marvel, I find that trailers spoil too much. Or you watch the trailer and you're like, wow, that's half the plot right there. And done. Great. I only need to watch half the movie. So for this film, I made sure not to watch anything trailer and just go straight into this film. And this film goes for 156 minutes. It was on a budget of $200 million. It's made so far $160 million at the worldwide box office. It's been in development since 2021. There was actually a bidding war for this film. Initially, because who was attached to Brad Pitt and Joseph, the director, was also attached to this. So there was a little bit of bidding war for this, and it finally came into fruition. Surprisingly, Apple won. When I was reading on the notes for this, I was like, out of Sony, out of Warner Brothers, Universal, everybody, Apple won, which at the moment, I'm really glad they did. Because it's a film look, you're not going into this film and being like, oh my God, it's going to surprise me. Like, what could possibly happen? The plot is probably the part of the film that's the thinnest out of everything. Because you've got the old driver, which is played by Brad Pitt. You've got the younger driver played by Damson Idles, who plays Joshua Pierce. And you're going, oh yeah, they're going to be a rivalry, and then he's going to win. He's going to train him. But I must admit, the ending does divert that a little bit. But let's talk about the actual meat of this. Not the thinnest part, but the actual meat. The action, the cars, it is fantastic. Now, Joseph is also the same director who did Top Gun Maverick. And you can see the elements from directing that into this. You get really into depth into the cars. You feel like you're right there. It's intense. And trust me, I know there's some films that you should see in IMAX, other films that you don't really need to, but this is a film that stamp on it. You need to see this in IMAX. And I wish I did. I recommend everyone to go watch this film in IMAX because you would love to hear, even in the theater that we saw it in, the roar of the cars and the score of Hans Zimmer, which I didn't know he was actually scoring this film, is incredible. I've been listening to the soundtrack for the past 2 weeks. From when it got released to its full release, it is fantastic. And that man can do no wrong. And I thought how just the music he does in the background for this film is intense. You feel really pulled into this film. So we meet Brad Pitt, who plays Tony Hayes, who basically was meant to be the greatest of all time. He's not the greatest of all time because he had a crash in F1, so he never returned back. So he's been doing races here and there. Basically, racing's big what if. What's going to happen with him. But he wins Daytona. His friend, Ruben, goes, I need you to help me with my F1 team because we're struggling. He's about to lose everything. He's about to get kicked off the board. So he's asking him to come on and join his team. So he flies over, meets the team, which we meet Joshua. Basically, no one trusts him because he's old and he doesn't drive F1s. So we get the full combat between him and Joshua, basically one-upping each other. Of course, Joshua gets in a crash because he doesn't listen to Sonny, which, that's going to happen with the mentor and the trainee. But the film never, it has its slow moments, but it just hits every single beat. Not once are you looking at your watch, you're really invested in these characters, even though in the background you kind of know what the plot's going to be. And then, of course, just seeing the F1 cars, what goes into the racing team, just is a great highlight. And one of the outstanding characters is Kate, where the love interest, the love interest for Brad Pitt's character, Sunny, where she basically explains how she builds the cars, what her role is, aerodynamics, and how we can build these cars for combat. It's funny because when I was watching the film, I was a bit like, your voice sounds really familiar. And of course, did a little IMDb digging. She's the voice of Friday of Iron Man after Jarvis. I'm like, that's it. That's who it sounds like. And it's Kerry Gordon who plays Kate, by the way. Yeah, it's her. So I was like, okay, this makes sense. Or I don't know, tech kind of get into this. So the love interest, she plays the love interest. But the different places that we go, the races, how in depth it gets into, how that feeling of when someone basically Brad Pitt's character, sorry, is like you're flying, that feeling. There's a scene right at the end. Of course, we're going to spoilers territory. Is that right at the end is a scene where he's basically flying and it's stunning. The whole theater for me went perfectly quiet for this scene. The music stops and you just hear the car, and it's a beautiful scene. But in the end, it's not actually the kid who wins. It's Brad Pitt's character, Sonny. He wins the race. But he doesn't stay with him. Of course, he's got some more demons to go tackle. He goes in the desert for some derby racing, which looks like a lot of fun. And it definitely obviously leaves the door open for a sequel. But just the banter between the team is fantastic. The comedy moments hit for the film. It's just a film that, I was not going, oh yeah, this was going to be amazing. But I'm like, every point didn't slow down. The action, the comedy, the chemistry, the acting was just all on point. Hell, Joshua's character was like, depending on what Marvel's doing, I could see you as the next Black Panther, because he was just so good. That presence on screen, I'm like, I'm all in to see you play a Black Panther, or play as a variant, if you will, or multiversal theories, all the fun stuff. But trust me, this is a racing film you're not going to want to sleep on. Overall, it is fantastic. It hits that mark, no pun intended, and really gets you nice and deep, as bad as that sounds, into this racing field. And there's also talks of this film, a sequel, and get Tom Cruise in to get his character from Days of Thunder. It's reported they're already speaking of a sequel because it's just that damn good. And it's not one of those films, which I've spoken about in the past, that sometimes you can get a good film and at the end of it go, you know what? It doesn't need a sequel. Let's just leave it. Let's wrap it up. It's done. It's dusted. But if they, for example, something like Tom Cruise coming in and them to have a head-to-head battle on the course, I'm all in. Take my money. Let's do this. This is great. Even another big name actor, I would like to return to this team. I would like to return to these characters. And, if it's a 3-way race at the end with all 3 characters, that would be great to see. Trust me, this goes in the long lines of really great racing movies between Rush, Ford versus Ferrari, and Gran Turismo. Gran Turismo film, if you haven't seen it, that's another great racing film. That's based on a true story, and that was very surprising. But again, that dealt with the action really well with the cars. This just seemed on another level. And it also seemed like this film, trust me when I say at the beginning of this year, if you told me this film was going to be one of the better films of 2025, I would have said no. I was like, racing film with Brad Pitt, that's... No, let's go to mid. That would be great, but nothing fantastic. But again, one film you need to see this year is F1 Fantastic, and you need to listen to the score with Hans Zimmer. It is out of this world. So, ranters and rantettes, if you have seen this film, let me know what you think in the comments. Do you want to see a sequel? Do you want to see another race? Or do you want to leave it? Let me know. And as always, until next time, happy ranting.
Thanks for listening to Lights, Camera, Rant. If you like the show, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. While you're at it, leave us a rating and review, and be sure to tell your friends. Until next time, happy ranting.